There wasn't much news. Of obviously over the weekend you heard that Impact Wrestling, as of 2024, will become TNA. Uh,
TNA, TNA.
it makes no difference to me. Like
It don't.
I don't think I ever really like. If you were push for words, you would always call it TNA,
Yeah,
unless you didn't know TNA existed. Like if you're a new wrestling fan and like TNA never really existed for you, yeah, you might call it Impact. But for me, I've known TNA, so I've always kind of called it TNA.
I'm going to say this, Betty. If we could afford interns on this show, I would make the interns go through every episode of this show on this channel and see how many times we slipped up and said TNA over Impact. I welcome the change for that reason only, because there's every time I bring up anything and I'm like, hey Manny, Will Ospreay had a really good match with Mike Bailey in TNA over the weekend, and I would stop myself every single time and go, Impact Wrestling, Bound for Glory, Impact Wrestling, Hard Justice. But
Yeah,
I
with
would normally
any show, any like company with three letters is easier to say. Like AEW,
yeah,
WWE, NXT. The
yeah,
only one that you kind of go with is your Mexican ones with CML and
AAA.
AAA. Yeah.
Yeah, CMLL is the only one that said I'm going to do 4. I mean, if you can go all the way back to WCCW, but no one gives a fuck about that in the modern era. I'm just saying. But that's really like, or Josh Barnett's Fight Club or some random shit out there. All that stuff that's
No,
out there.
no,
But
I
I think it's the
isn't
better
that
move. It's the
is
better
that
move.
it's the better move, and obviously their reason for it is to tie up the lineage of the company, which I'm not sure you really want to go back to some of that shit, to be honest.
Some of it, but you know what? When they announced it and they showed that logo, I got nostalgic. I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like that was my immediate response. Of, "Fuck yeah, good for you," because you know, Impact Wrestling. I think you just need a wrestling show with 3 initials. I think it just needs to have that abbreviation, because
Yeah,
Impact Wrestling is a lot to say for a wrestling fan. And you can't chant Impact Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, like you go TNA. I can't wave my towel to that shit like you brought up in the pre-show with Philadelphia fan waving his towel. And Randy, let's go over the 5 things that, real quick. It's not TNA unless they do the following things. You can go first.
are we going proper, or are we going with what we were discussing in the
We're
in
basically going
the?
what we discussed in the pre-show.
Okay, so obviously you've got to go the impact zone, which I'm including the
Yes.
six-sided ring, the
Oh no,
heel
you
and
can't include
face,
all that. That takes everything.
tunnels.
Oh yes.
So that whole aesthetic, the impact zone in Orlando, Florida. Was it Orlando, Florida?
It was Orlando, Florida, Manny. You're very good at
Yeah.
geography right now. I like that's what Manny thinks about when he says Orlando, Florida. Immediately Impact Zone. When I think Universal Studios, I swear to God, to this day, when I think of Orlando Studios, I can't even say it. I think Impact Zone only. I don't think of the actual theme
Yeah.
park.
Yeah, so that's number one. What would you pick?
Well, Manny, since you took the 6-sided ring and the heel ramp, face ramps and everything else in the impact zone, I think without Mike today on commentary, it is not Impact Wrestling. If it's not TNA.
See, no, for me, TNA is nothing without, God rest his soul, Don West.
That's true too.
He made every call impress. Like there's something when you watch AEW. There's something missing. There's no real voice of AEW. Like
Yeah.
Excalibur can try and do it, and Shivani can kind of do it, but Shivani's more the voice of WCW, if anything. But so there's no real voice of AEW for me at the moment. Whereas like I look back at TNA and I go, Don West. He's like, oh my God, epidemic.
Oh my God. For only $9.99, you can get this. That is an interesting point about AEW I didn't think about. They don't really have that voice. It's just, I mean,
No.
it might be Excalibur, but I don't really buy it. It doesn't have the impact of a TNA and West, a Cole,
I'm
or
sure,
Jim Ross
I'm sure
and
over
Lawler,
time.
or even
Thing is, I'm
Shivani
sure
and
over time.
WCW. But basically,
Yeah.
it's the impact zone. Mike today, I need Dixie Carter to show up.
Really?
Sporadically. Yeah,
Dixie
I need her at
Carter.
ringside. I don't need her to do anything. I need her at ringside and being a good ambassador to the brand and saying everything's on the up and up. My wrestlers are getting paid.
I just need Jeff Jarrett to reclaim the King of the Mountain. Is that too much to ask?
Well, now you're asking for a lot. Now you're asking for a lot. I also, to just talk about AEW in this. Jeff Jarrett has had more matches in AEW than anybody else. He had more matches than CM Punk, Kenny Omega, the Bucks, Hangman Page.
That's a goddamn shame.
Yes. He's had more matches than all of them.
Though?
And I got,
for his age, he's not even wrestling that bad of matches, to be honest.
Oh, that Collision. I don't know if you watched Collision. I couldn't take the hot dog or whatever match. It was just like, this is stupid. It was bad. I was like, no. Collision was like watching Rampage this week, to be honest. Other than the opening match with Danielson and
my whole intent was to watch Collision, but then it took me so long to get through Bound for Glory. I think I've paused midway through the Mickey James and Trinity match. Because I was just like, this is getting annoying now. I can't stand watching the aesthetic of this. It needs to look like it's in 4K.
And this is coming from somebody that goes to Pro Wrestling Eve, who is in basically someone's garage, it looks like.
No, never in a garage.
On TV it looks like a garage.
There's a really trashy one, but it's just like, this is clearly a dive bar, which I always knew was a dive bar when in my youth, and I was like, I would never go here. But no, I go stand outside and wait to watch wrestling in it.
Yeah, it's like, it looks like a gin joint, basically. All the gin joints in the town. This is where we're going to do our wrestling. But but all that stuff for TNA. I know Jordan Grace and a few wrestlers don't want to bring back the 6 sides because it hurts and it's dangerous. But Manny, I need it back.
So there's
I don't care about the safety.
I need. We need the guy in the crowd. So this includes the Impact Zone because I don't think he travels well. This guy, TNA's number one fan was this guy that always used to wave a Falcons towel and always sometimes would be in a Falcons jersey. I think he was in that white jersey at the time, if you go back and look at the time.
So, all that stuff together, I need for you to call it TNA. But it was nostalgic seeing that logo back. And Hard to Kill, the first show back as TNA, Las Vegas, Palms Hotel. Basically, I would like to say my backyard, a 4-hour drive, but
well, you have to go.
Gotta go for nostalgia reasons.
Yeah, you have to go.